What you are about to hear was never supposed to leak, but it did. And once you know it, you cannot unknow it. Hello, friends. My name is James, and you are watching Royal Daily Report, your number one source for the most exclusive, most shocking, and most talked about royal stories on the internet. If you are new here, hit that subscribe button right now because you do not want to miss what we have coming. And if you have been here from the beginning, you already know. We never stop. We never hold back. And tonight is no different. Let us get into it. She has not been to Britain in nearly 4 years. Not once. Not for a charity event. Not for a friend's wedding. Not for a birthday. Not even for a quiet visit that nobody was supposed to know about. Since September 2022, when she stood at Queen Elizabeth's funeral in a black dress and a veil and watched the coffin pass, Meghan Markle has not set foot on British soil. Harry has gone back multiple times. Alone. For court cases. For charity events. For a private meeting with his father. Each time, Meghan stayed home. And the official reason has always been the same. Security. Harry's legal team argued it was unsafe. Harry himself told the BBC he could not see a world where he brought his family back without proper protection. Security was always the answer. Security was always the explanation. But now, in June 2026, with the security situation reportedly resolved, with the July dates confirmed, with Archie and Lilibet apparently booked to fly to Britain for the first time in 4 years, a different question is emerging. One that royal commentators have been circling around for months, and one that a royal writer named Duncan Larcombe said out loud in a way that stopped the conversation. He said, and these are his exact words, "The security issue has essentially been used as an excuse for Meghan not to come to the UK in the last few years." And he added, "Many people think the real reason is to do with the public reaction she would receive over here." Tonight, we are telling you the full story of the real reasons Meghan does not want to go back to Britain. The public hostility, the 19% approval rating, the Andrew factor that nobody is talking about clearly enough, and the question that sits underneath all of it. Is she going in July because she wants to, or because she has finally run out of reasons not to? This is Royal Daily Report, and tonight, we are going deeper than the headlines. Let us start with the number, because this single number explains more about why Meghan has stayed away from Britain than any security arrangement ever could. 19%. That is Meghan Markle's current approval rating among the British public, according to YouGov's Royal Family Favorability Tracker released on June 13, 2026. 19% positive, 66% negative. In a country of 67 million people, roughly 1 in 5 actually likes her, and 4 in 5 either actively dislike her or have no positive feelings toward her at all. To put that in context, even Prince Andrew, the man who was stripped of his royal titles, arrested, and described as the most disgraced member of the royal family in modern history, has managed to retain higher approval ratings in certain polling. The woman who left Britain saying she had been mistreated and misunderstood has watched her standing in that same country fall to a level that royal commentators are now describing as unprecedented and almost impossible to recover from in the short term. Royal writer Duncan Larcombe made the point directly to the Mirror. He said Meghan will face some deeply awkward choices when she arrives. He said, and I want you to hear this clearly, he said the public reaction she would receive over here is the real reason she has been staying away. Not the security, not the logistics, not the scheduling, the public. A woman stepping out of a car at a Birmingham venue in July 2026 and walking into a wall of British public opinion that, according to polling, is almost 70% negative. That is not a welcome. That is a gauntlet. If you want to understand why Andrew specifically makes Meghan's UK return even more complicated, subscribe to Royal Daily Report right now. Because what comes next is the connection nobody has fully explained. Now let us talk about Andrew. Because here is the thing about Prince Andrew in 2026 that connects directly to Meghan's anxiety about returning to Britain. Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, no longer His Royal Highness, no longer the Duke of York, is the single most radioactive figure in the British royal family. He was stripped of his titles in October 2025. He was arrested in February 2026. He represents everything the British public most despises about the royal family's tendency to protect its own regardless of behavior. And William, according to multiple reports, played a significant role in pushing Charles to finally take action against him. Royal author Russell Myers confirmed that Andrew's legal troubles had accelerated William's plans for a more streamlined monarchy. And royal author Andrew Loney, whose book entitled The Rise and Fall of the House of York became a bestseller in 2025, had already documented in devastating detail how Andrew was allowed to operate without consequence for years inside the palace. Now here is where Meghan enters this picture. The British public that despises Andrew despises him for a specific reason. They believe the institution protected him for years when it should have acted. They believe the palace closed ranks around him even when the evidence was damning. And that same British public, 66% of which has a negative view of Meghan, has made a parallel argument about her. Not that she has done anything comparable to Andrew, but that the palace, under Harry's influence and through the legal and media battles of the past 4 years, has been unable to hold her to any kind of accountability either. The comparison is not fair. The situations are not equivalent. But perception does not have to be fair to be real. And the perception of a significant portion of the British public as Meghan steps off a plane in Birmingham in July will be shaped by an atmosphere in which the institution's failures, Andrew on one end, the Sussex departure on the other, have made people deeply, almost permanently suspicious of anyone connected to the royal inner circle. Meghan is walking back into that atmosphere, and she knows it. Like this video right now if this connection is making you see this story differently. And subscribe to Royal Daily Report, because what comes next is about the thing that Meghan is most afraid of during this trip. IB Times UK, reporting on June 19, 2026, revealed something about Meghan's specific fears around the UK return that goes beyond public opinion and beyond Andrew's shadow. According to insiders, Meghan is reportedly terrified that the royal family will poison Harry against her during the visit. Those are the exact words of the sourcing. Poison Harry against her. Think about what that fear reveals. This is a woman who has spent 4 years building a life with Harry in California. A life that is entirely separate from the institution that shaped him. A life in which she is the primary influence on his daily world, his decisions, his emotional reality. And the prospect of walking Harry back into a building full of people who remember a different version of him. People who knew him before Meghan, who love him in ways that predate her, who may say things in private that she cannot control or anticipate. That prospect is apparently one of her deepest anxieties about this trip. The source told IB Times UK that Meghan is particularly concerned about the emotional impact the visit could have on Harry, who has publicly acknowledged feelings of homesickness and sadness over his fractured relationship with the royal family. Translation: she is worried that Harry, back in Britain, reunited with his father, standing in royal palaces, breathing the air of the country he grew up in, will remember things, will feel things, will want things that she cannot give him in California. That fear is human. It is understandable. It is also, according to the insiders, very real. Do not go anywhere. Subscribe to Royal Daily Report and turn on those notifications. Because what comes next is about the specific way Andrew's situation has created a new danger for Meghan in Britain that did not exist before his arrest. Here is something that connects Andrew's 2026 situation directly to Meghan's UK return in a way that has not been reported clearly. When Andrew was stripped of his titles in October 2025 and arrested in February 2026, something happened inside British public discourse that made Meghan's position more complicated. The conversation about who gets to use royal titles, who deserves them, and who has done enough damage to forfeit them. That conversation moved to the center of British political and media life. And in that conversation, Meghan's name kept appearing. Not as a criminal, not as someone who did anything comparable to Andrew, but as part of a broader debate about what royal titles mean and whether the Sussex family, living in California, building commercial brands, occasionally criticizing the institution publicly, whether they still deserve the titles they carry. Royal expert Richard Fitzwilliams, speaking about Meghan's declining popularity, noted that the security issue aside, her brand image in Britain is now defined primarily by her departure from the institution and her subsequent commercial activities. He said adjusted security measures would open the door for her return, but that the Sussexes' declining popularity could make things difficult. And in the same week that Andrew was being publicly stripped of everything, that difficulty became sharper. Because every time the British press wrote about Andrew losing his titles, The obvious comparison sat just below the surface. What about the Sussexes? What about the titles they still carry? What about the royal brand they are still commercially exploiting? Andrew's fall did not directly threaten Meghan's position, but it intensified a conversation that was already making her uncomfortable. And it gave the hostile section of the British press a new angle, a new framework, a new reason to put her face next to the royal institution's most controversial stories and ask whether she deserves to be there. Now let us talk about what royal writer Duncan Larkham said that captures Meghan's entire dilemma about this trip in a single sentence. He said, "I do not think it is in Meghan's character to eat humble pie. And if she comes to the UK, humble pie is exactly what is on the menu for her." That sentence is precise and devastating in equal measure, because it identifies the specific emotional and psychological challenge that Britain represents for Meghan right now. She is a woman who has spent 4 years telling the world her truth, who gave the Oprah interview, who was central to the Netflix documentary, who stood beside Harry as he wrote a memoir that named names and described specific conversations and positioned her as a victim of a system that failed her. She has not been quiet. She has not been deferential. She has not, in any observable way, suggested that she regrets anything she said or that the version of events she presented to the world was incomplete. And now she is walking into a country where 66% of people have a negative view of her, where the institution she publicly criticized is the same institution she is now asking to accommodate her family in a royal palace, where the press she described as dangerous is waiting on every tarmac and outside every venue. That is not a return. That is a reckoning. And whether Meghan has the appetite for that reckoning, whether she can walk through that door and absorb that atmosphere and still be the composed, warm, present mother and partner she needs to be for Archie and Lilibet during this trip, is the question that everyone who knows her is apparently asking. Here is what this story ultimately tells us. Meghan's reluctance to return to Britain has never been one thing. It has never been simply security. It has never been simply public opinion. It has never been simply the Andrew comparison or the title debate or the fear of Harry being changed by proximity to his old world. It has been all of those things simultaneously. A wall of hostility, legal complexity, personal anxiety, and institutional tension that she has been very successfully using the security argument to avoid confronting directly. Now that the security argument has reportedly been resolved, the wall is still there. It is just visible now. No more excuse. No more legal obstacle. Just Meghan and Britain and everything that has been building between them since September 2022. She is reportedly going in July. She has apparently run out of reasons to stay away. But running out of reasons is not the same as being ready. And whether she is actually ready for what Britain in July 2026 is going to feel like, that is a question that will be answered not in a press release, but in the moment she steps off the plane. This is Royal Daily Report, and we will be there for every moment of it. That is all for tonight, friends. I am James, and this has been Royal Daily Report. If this story hit different for you, hit that like button right now. Subscribe if you have not already and turn on those notifications because we drop new stories every single week. Share this video with one friend who loves royal news. I will see you in the next one. Until then, stay informed, stay curious, and stay royal. Goodbye, friends. Hello, friends. If you are not subscribed to Royal Daily Report yet, what are you waiting for? Hit that button right now.